So, this is our first try at this, and it's a concept I had, and I just want to try it out. So, well, whoever's following me, you probably already know me, and later on down the road, maybe I'll get followers who don't. I'm Martha Brookbank. I'm a realtor with Valley Market Real Estate in Palmer, and I serve all of South Central, basically, Anchorage, Eagle River, Palmer, Wasilla. And I haven't been in the business that long. So what I've been telling people lately that people seem to like is that my broker, Marty, is like my Yoda. And it's true. Whenever I have a problem, he helps me out and he really guides me through this whole learning curve of doing real estate transactions. And every transaction is something new and different. So there's always new things that come up, new problems to fix, or new hurdles to overcome. So I figured if I benefit from Marty's wealth of knowledge, there must be other people who would as well. And he's been doing real estate for a long time. I'm gonna put him on camera here. There he is, Marty Van Dies. How long have you been doing this?
Almost 30 years. So this is 2020, since 91.
Okay.
So 29 years. And I do enjoy real estate. I enjoy, probably the most interesting thing is figuring out how to fix problems.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what keeps it from being boring. And I enjoy teaching others. So that's been good to teach Martha. She's happy to learn, and she's good at learning. So it's been an enjoyable experience. But real estate is always different. There's always new problems that come up, things you never think about. And your job as a realtor is to figure out the right way to fix those problems, to navigate through a transaction in order to help your client in the best way possible.
Or sometimes even if it's not a transaction, right? Like you were talking to a lady this morning about a quitclaim deed.
Oh, yeah, okay, good.
Tell us about that.
All right.
What's a quitclaim deed?
That was an interesting conversation. So, this lady received a property from her father-in-law via quitclaim deed. And he had received it from somebody else 20 years ago, also via quitclaim deed 22 years ago. So a quitclaim deed, all it does is transfer whatever part of the property you own to somebody else. And so if you quitclaim a house to your nephew, and you own the house when you quitclaim it, nobody else has any ownership of the house, then you've given him everything you own, which is pretty much everything. But let's say that you only owned half the house and you quitclaimed him the house. Well, you really only quitclaimed half the house. So you really never know on a quitclaim deed what was transferred unless you know what the original person who transferred it owned. The classic example is I could quitclaim you the Brooklyn Bridge, and it would be a legal quitclaim deed. The fact that I didn't own the Brooklyn Bridge has nothing to do with the fact that the quitclaim deed is not legal, or legal unless I told you I did own it. There can be some fraud there. But I could write up a quitclaim deed that said I own anything and transfer to somebody else, but I really didn't transfer any ownership at all.
Yeah. So I think this lady was worried that someone could quitclaim her house away from her. And then we were talking about how some people try to sell you insurance against that, but that could be kind of a scam because you can't really give away interest that you don't have.
Right. So she apparently had heard some advertisement. I haven't heard the advertisement, but that you can buy insurance to keep somebody from gaining ownership of your house by quitclaiming your house to somebody else. So somebody down the street could say, hey, I own that house over there, and sell it to them with a quitclaim deed. Of course, that deed would have been fraudulent and wouldn't have any legal standing. But apparently there's people that are selling insurance out there to keep that to protect you from losing ownership of your house by somebody else's quitclaim deed. And I'm not quite sure how that could work, but certainly there are fraudsters out there, but there would be fraudsters on both ends of that. The person who wrote the quitclaim deed and the person that sold the insurance. So
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't know exactly what the story is there, but there's something to be careful of.
So I have a question about a transaction I'm doing, and we'll see what Marty has to say. We've talked a lot about as-built surveys, right? But in this market that was so hot in September, a lot of buyers were offering to pay for as-built surveys. It's usually a seller's cost. So when a buyer's offering to upfront all of these costs, they could be up to $2,000 that are usually seller's costs. When can we skimp on an as-built? Can we ever skimp on an as-built? And what exactly is an as-built survey? That's my question.
Okay. So an as-built survey is a survey of the lot with the improvements on the lot, showing the improvements on the lot, where they are in the lot, and how close they are to each other and how close they are to the lot lines. Those are important. And it also shows it's supposed to show if there are any easements on the lot that might be recorded somewhere. So I'm always nervous about skipping on an as-built survey. And so it's a calculated risk if a buyer decides to buy a house and not do a new as-built. He needs to look at that old as-built. He needs to have an old as-built. For sure, I wouldn't do a deal at all without an as-built survey if it has improvements on the property. But if you have an old as-built, you look at that old as-built and you first think, well, how old is this as-built? 20 years old, 5 years old, what? And that'll make a little bit of a difference. And then compare that as-built to what you see on the ground. Is everything on the as-built that you see there still on the ground? Or is there something new? Did they build a garage? Did they build a shop? Do they have a shed that wasn't there on the as-built? And where is that shed? And does it have a permanent foundation? There are rules that you have to be careful about. You don't want to build too close to a side lot line. You don't want to build too close to a body of water. You don't want to build too close to right-of-way. You don't want your well and septic to be too close to each other. And you don't want them to be too close to the neighbor's lot either. So let's say that as-built survey was done 10 years ago, and since then, the neighbors put in a new septic system. Well, you want to make sure that new septic system is at least 100 feet away from your well. And if you can tell that from the old as-built, fine. If you can't, it might be a good idea to get a new one. So you have to be careful about those things. You can have a real expensive mistake if you aren't.
And the easement thing, that's a big one. Like we had that one buyer I represented earlier this summer. He bought a home that was not quite off Big Lake, but one lot back to Big Lake frontage. And he's having people cross his property to get to their property that's on the lake.
Right. And so he wanted to make sure that they did or did not have a right to do that. And from what we could tell, they did not have the right to do that.
Yeah.
So if they don't have an easement, they're not supposed to be crossing private property. Or we can get into prescriptive easements. Yeah. And when we do that, you're talking attorneys and judges and courts. So.
Yeah. Crazy. So, sounds like my buyers are going to have to get an as-built, unfortunately. It's like an $800 fee. Okay, Marty, so what's on your mind? What are you thinking about this week?
There's a lot of things. That's one thing about real estate is you never run out of things to think about.
It's true.
One thing I like the public to think about this time of year is winter time is coming. Snow, ice, freezing weather. Get your house ready for winter. Think about where things are. They're going to be covered with snow pretty soon. Are you going to be able to find your septic monitor tubes when they plug up in the middle of winter? Hopefully you don't have them covered. Hopefully you don't have to get jackhammer out to jackhammer 1 foot of frozen ground to try to find your monitor tubes. We've done that before. That's no fun.
So it's funny you say that. Sorry to interrupt, because I've had a lot of out-of-state buyers ask me why those ugly tubes are so long.
Right. Well, they're long just because when they're installed, they need to be up out of the ground. I don't know. There's probably a minimum amount of feet. I don't know how many, but they need to be showing. But an owner can cut them off if you want to. That's okay.
But if, like you said, if there's a bunch of snow and you need to get your septic pumped,
right, you better know where they are.
Yeah.
Let's say there's 3 feet of snow on top of your backyard, and that's where your septic system is, and you cut your septic monitor tubes off. Well, you're gonna have to you have to access those. You better find them.
Yeah.
So I recently had, well, not recently. My son was about 18 years old, because I remember it by that, and I was selling a property where the septic system was completely buried by a huge drift. I mean, this is like maybe 6 feet deep, and the septic system's over there somewhere. That's all we knew. And she had 2 teenage sons, this lady did. And I said, well, you need to dig that up. You're gonna have to find them. They're over there somewhere. You have to dig them up. She said, well, I can't get my sons off the computer to go do them. I said, well, I guess you can hire my son. And she did.
Oh.
So he went out there while her 2 boys were playing video games and dug up her septic system. So
crazy.
Think about that with your kids. Maybe they need to dig a septic system up rather than...
Your son was born a sourdough.
Well, I wouldn't let him play video games. So.
That's funny. Well, what else about winter? Something about a hose bib you were...
Oh, yes. So you need in fact, I've got a hose bib right outside my office here, and I looked at it this morning and said, okay, I gotta put that hose away, because a lot of times if you leave the hoses attached to your hose bibs in the wintertime, you're going to cause your hose bib to freeze up and crack and leak, and maybe leak into your house, and all kinds of problems can happen. Detach those hoses from your hose bib. That will at least help you to keep from getting a frozen hose bib and maybe a frozen pipe, and it can cause a lot of damage, thousands and thousands of dollars. So get those ready.
Well, we could talk about the market, but if you guys don't already know, Marty has a where do you post those market memos? Do you post them on YouTube, or you just have to be on the email list?
Okay, so market memo comes out. I try to get it out every Monday. Sometimes I get delayed, but we try to get it out every Monday. The stats are every Monday to Monday. And the market memo is emailed. If you want to get the email, that's probably the best thing. And I send that out via email to a lot of people. And I have more information on the email than I have just in the market memo. But it's also on the website, valleymarket.com. We put it there. I'm trying to get it on YouTube and Facebook, but that's been sporadic. So I need to be more regular with that. To get them on both of those. So look for those.
And yeah, if you guys have any questions about the market or any real estate questions in particular, obviously let me know, let Marty know. We'd be happy to figure out any issue you have, answer any question you have. That's why we're here. That's what we do all day, is sit around and talk about how to solve problems. So here we are. And if you have a particular question for myself or for Marty, I'm going to try and force Marty into doing more of these videos.
All right. We'll see how this works out.
Yep, we'll see. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.